The cold, deep water you think every bass ran to in July is often dead water, and a bass cannot survive down there. That's myth number 9 on this list, and a state fisheries director named Alan Forshage measured the proof himself. Believing it is quietly costing you the best fishing of your whole summer. So remember the word oxygen, because it comes back more than once. Summer is the one season every angler swears he's got figured out. The water heats up, every old article says the bass went deep, so you motor out to the channel, dredge a worm in 30 feet and catch nothing. Then you idle home and blame your own hands. But the problem was never your skill. The problem is a stack of summer lies. They get repeated so often that nobody stops to check a single one of them. So we're counting down 9 of those lies, worst to first, the ones quietly bleeding fish out of your day. Then we'll get into the short list of things that actually put bass in the boat. Some of these you've believed your whole life. Myth number 9 is the granddaddy, the cool, deep refuge. The story goes like this. When it bakes up top, every bass slides down to the cold water near the bottom and waits out the heat. And you felt that cold layer yourself, jumping off the boat on a July afternoon. So it feels obvious the fish would want it. But here's what never made the article. Alan Forshage ran the Texas Freshwater Fisheries Research Center. He said flat out that in most Texas lakes there's basically no oxygen below 15 feet in summer. None worth mentioning. The cold water is real, but it's suffocating. A bass dropped into it would die, so the fish gets squeezed into a thin band that's both cool enough and breathable. And it sits far shallower than you were ever told. You weren't fishing too shallow out there. You were fishing a graveyard. And that suffocation isn't a hunch, it's just water chemistry. A warm water fish like a bass wants oxygen up around 5 milligrams per liter to stay comfortable. It starts avoiding water below 3. It begins to die below 2. Down in that cold basement in late summer, the number can sit near 0. So the bass isn't hugging the shallows out of stubbornness. It literally cannot breathe where the myth sent you. And your graph proves it, if you read it right. Watch your screen in late summer. You'll see the bait pile up at one certain depth and just stop cold. That ceiling is the oxygen line. The bass are riding it, not sitting underneath it. Myth number 8. That bass goes sluggish and quit eating in the heat. It sounds almost humane, the picture of a tired old fish waiting on fall. And honestly, I nodded along to that one for years myself. But a bass is cold-blooded, and that flips the whole story. Ken Cook was a working fisheries biologist before he ever won a Bassmaster Classic. He put it about as plainly as it gets. A cold-blooded fish runs a faster metabolism in warm water. It burns more energy, and it has to eat more often, not less. Summer isn't the bass taking a nap on the couch. Summer is the bass at its absolute hungriest. Think about what's spawning shallow in the heat. The bluegill, the bream, the shad. The bass is right there on top of that buffet. It isn't refusing your bait, it's just not sitting where the myth told you to drop it. That's a finding problem, not a feeding problem. And a hungry fish is a catchable fish. That's good news, not bad. You just have to bring the bait to the pantry, not the bedroom. Myth number 7. That you only get them at first light and last light. The dawn and dusk gospel is so baked in that good anglers pack up at 9 in the morning. They do it out of pure reflex. And low light is genuinely prime water, I won't pretend it isn't. But treating the clock as your only switch leaves fish swimming all day long. Bernie Schultz, a longtime tournament pro, has won fish-flipping shallow reed mats. He did it in the middle of a blazing afternoon. Heavy cloud cover can turn high noon into an all-day low-light window. Watch the shade line crawl across a dock as the sun moves. The bass slides right along with it, and on a reservoir, a dam kicking on at 1 in the afternoon can start a feeding spree out of nowhere. So the bite isn't ruled by the hour on your phone, it's ruled by conditions, and you can learn to read those. And don't sleep on the dark. After sunset in summer, a big black spinnerbait rolled slow along a bluff wall draws the heaviest bites of the month. The fish that ignored you at noon comes unglued at midnight. Myth number 6 is the one the fact-checkers absolutely love. It says bass prefer it scorching, somewhere up around 86 to 90 degrees. You'll see that range repeated everywhere. And it even traces back to a real laboratory study. So it's not pulled from thin air. But that study measured young, juvenile fish. And juveniles will always pick warmer water than the adults do. The grown bass you're actually chasing feed and grow best closer to 80 to 84 degrees. They tend to back off water hotter than the upper 80s. Push the thermometer toward 98 and you're near the temperature that kills them. So when somebody quotes you that high number at the ramp, they aren't quite lying. They're quoting a baby fish and calling it a 10-pounder. It's the right study, answering the wrong question, and that distinction catches fish. Chase that 90-degree water, and you're fishing where the adults won't sit. The giants you want are holding in the slightly cooler stuff, and now you know to look there. And right here, you should start to feel the thread. The oxygen from myth 9, the conditions from myth 7, the heat ceiling from myth 6. Every single one of these lies points at the exact same blind spot. Nobody ever taught you to find breathable, comfortable water. They taught you to find deep water. And friend, those are not the same thing. Hold that thought, because the next myth is the one where smart, experienced anglers get it precisely backwards. Myth number 5. Find the thermocline and fish below it for those cool, deep fish. This one stings a little, because it's the smart-sounding mistake. It's the kind a careful angler talks himself right into. The thermocline is that sharp line where warm surface water meets the cold, deep water. On decent electronics, you can mark it as a fuzzy band. But everything below it is the dead zone we already covered. Jacob Wheeler has been Angler of the Year on the Major League Fishing Tour more than once. He treats that line as the floor, not a doorway. He fishes at it and above it, where the bait and the oxygen both live. As he tells it, finding the thermocline eliminates half the lake instantly. So fish that line, and you've narrowed the whole water column down. Fish under it, and you've parked your boat over a cold, empty basement. A drop shot or a spoon held right at that edge will outfish the bottom all day. And don't trust a depth number alone. A thermocline at 20 feet on a clear lake might sit at 8 on a stained one. But the rule holds either way. Stay at that line or above it. Myth number 4. That any patch of shade or grass is automatically a safe bet. Shade is real cover, and green growing weeds really do pump out oxygen, so the instinct there isn't wrong. But it's only true for half the clock, and that half matters. During the day, those plants breathe oxygen out, and the bass stack into them. At night, the very same plants pull that oxygen back out of the water. The extension folks at Purdue have documented thick mats crashing the oxygen just before dawn. Sometimes it's hard enough to kill fish outright. So a grass flat is a daytime ally and a nighttime liability. Same exact spot, opposite answer, 12 hours apart. It really does pay to know which shift you showed up to fish. Dying, brown, matted weeds are a trap. Fresh, green, growing weeds are a dinner table. Myth number 3. That once summer truly hits, the bank is dead and everything pulled out deep. This is the lie that empties the prettiest water on the whole lake. But plenty of bass hold shallow all summer long, and some of the very biggest fish in the system never leave. They sit tight to grass, docks, and fallen laydowns. The forage is shallow, the ambush cover is shallow. The daytime oxygen off the weeds is shallow too. Tournaments get flat out won on the bank in August. It's guys throwing frogs and punching mats while the whole field fights for room on the ledge. Throw a hollow frog over matted grass at daylight and hang on. And when a mayfly hatch pops on a shallow flat, the whole food chain stacks up tight. Bluegill come up to eat the bugs. Bass come up to eat the bluegill in 4 feet of water. So shallow water in summer isn't empty. It's just quietly occupied by the fish that never read the script you were handed. Myth number 2 is a sneaky one, because it's wrapped tight around a truth. The deep ledges on the big reservoirs really do load up with whole schools of bass in summer. Lakes like Guntersville and Kentucky Lake are famous for exactly that. So an angler idles out, marks a giant wad of fish on his graph, and throws for 3 hours. He gets nothing but a sunburn. The missing piece is current. Kevin Vandam won a major league event on Lake Chickamauga back in 2021, and he said the quiet part out loud. He had to wait for the window when the dam turned the water on. With no current moving, that school sits there with its mouth clamped shut. Once the current starts pumping, the same exact fish flip on like somebody hit a switch. A deep crankbait, something like a Strike King 5XD, becomes lethal. So, the ledge was never the whole answer. The moving water was. And the fish you marked weren't lazy. They were just off the clock until the lake started flowing. And here's a tip nobody gives you for free. Most reservoirs publish their generation schedule online. Check it before you ever launch. Fishing a ledge with no water moving is like fishing a parking lot. And the same quiet game runs on the boat under you. The engine, the dealer, the hull itself. That's the whole reason the bilge files exists. Anyway, back to it. Which brings us all the way down to myth number 1, the lie sitting underneath every other one. It says there's a single summer bass pattern at all. It says whatever crushed them on your buddy's lake will obviously crush them on yours. But a shallow, weedy pond, a deep, clear reservoir, and a moving river are 3 different worlds. And they break the rules in opposite directions. A shallow lake may never form that deep, cold layer in the first place. So the go deep advice is pure poison there. A river hands the fish current and oxygen nearly everywhere. So bass can sit shockingly shallow right in the fastest water. The big reservoir is the only place the classic deep story even half holds, and only exactly where the oxygen allows it. Now if you chase smallmouth up north, the cool water rules shift again. That's a different fish with a different thermostat. And I'm being honest about that. But for largemouth, here's the punchline. Every tip that ever sometimes worked and sometimes flopped on you was not wrong. It was just answering a question about a different lake than the one you stood on. And that, right there, is the entire game. Now, the point of dragging you through all 9 of those was never to make you feel played. It's honestly the opposite. Every one of those myths fails for the same simple reason. And once you can see it, the lake gets a whole lot smaller and a whole lot more obvious. It stops being a coin flip. It starts being a checklist. So here's the short list of what actually works. This is the stuff I'd stake my own fishing day on. First, read the lake type before you tie on a single thing. Ask yourself one question. Is this a shallow, weedy lake, a deep, clear reservoir, or moving water? That one answer tells you whether deep is even a real option or a painted trap. It isn't glamorous, and it'll never fit on a thumbnail, but it's the whole difference between fishing on purpose and fishing on hope. And you feel that difference by lunch. And you can answer that question from the truck before the boat ever touches water. A quick look at a map and a depth chart usually settles it cold. Second, hunt breathable water instead of just cold water. On a lake that stratifies, mark that thermocline and stay at it or above it. Never go under it. Chase the creek inflows, the wind-blown banks, and the running current. Moving water is carrying oxygen with it. The honest caveat is that the exact depth shifts from lake to lake. It even shifts week to week, so you've got to look every single trip. But the principle never moves an inch. Find the water the fish can breathe, and you've found the fish. A quick tell is your own electronics. Crank the sensitivity up, and the thermocline shows as a gray smudge. Everything worth throwing lives at that smudge or just above it. Third, let the spot pick the bait, not the other way around. Matted grass wants a hollow frog walked over the top, or a heavy tungsten weight punched straight through it. An offshore ledge with current wants a deep crankbait or a football jig dragged slow. Low light shallow cover wants a topwater you can walk side to side. None of these is magic on its own, and I mean that. The bait only earns its keep because it fits where the fish honestly is. That's the exact part the lure commercials always quietly skip. And slow way down when the sun is high. A football jig crawled an inch at a time tempts a fish that a fast bait blows right past. And in dirty water, give them something they can feel. A thumping spinnerbait or a jig with a big kicking trailer pushes water the fish can track without ever seeing it. Fourth, stop worshiping the clock and start reading the day in front of you. Dawn and dusk are great. Sure, go fish them. But cloudy skies, a generating dam, and a breeze stacking bait on a bank are feeding windows too. So is full dark, with a big black worm rolled slow. The caveat, and I'll be straight with you, is that you can't control any of those, but you can absolutely watch for them. Then you fish hard when they line up, instead of quitting at 9 out of old habit. The angler who reads the day out fishes the one who reads the clock, just about every single time. So here's the one line worth carrying back to the water. Bass in summer aren't hiding down in the cold. They're crowded into the comfortable. And comfortable means oxygen, cover, and food, not just raw depth. Read your water, find the breathable stuff, then match the bait to the spot. Do those 3 things, and the season that used to humble you becomes the easiest pattern of your year. You don't need a pricier rod or some secret lure to do it. You just need to stop fishing the myth and start fishing the water in front of you. That's a skill, and you already have it. One honest note. Nobody sponsors this channel. No dealer pays me a dime. So the $50 Fix Bible covers the summer water pump job a shop bills hundreds for. $20 once. I fixed mine in the driveway last July. Today's tips were free either way. Want it? The code's on screen and the links below. The bass never ran to the cold. It ran to the oxygen. And starting today, so do you. And look, if the go deep myth cost you this much in lost fish, brace yourself. Wait till you get a look at what the tackle wall hides inside the reels themselves. The very same guts sit behind 3 completely different price tags. YouTube thinks you'll like the 2 videos sitting on your screen right now. So go ahead and click whichever one calls to you. And if you made it all the way to the end here with me, do me a quick favor and subscribe.